How's it going, everyone? Justin Smith here, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube channel. Hit that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well, subscribers. Hit that notification bell. Be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to Touchdown Alabama, be sure to hit the subscribe button because we are going to be continuing to pump out content to you guys about the latest in Alabama football news when it comes to the team, when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to the coaching changes that could possibly happen. So be sure to hit that subscribe button while you are here. And speaking of coaching changes, that is what this video is about, as the Crimson Tide have officially hired a new offensive coordinator in Ryan Grubb, a coach who was expected to join Alabama staff on last season. It seemed like it was supposed to be a seamless transition from Washington to Alabama for Grubb, similar to Kalen DeBoer. And this is a similar track that he's basically had his entire coaching career, coaching under Kalen DeBoer at multiple stops like Fresno State, like Washington, and now at Alabama. So he's been working with Kalen DeBoer working under Kalen DeBoer as an offensive coordinator for several years at several stops at many different programs, and looked like it was, like I said, it was going to be that seamless transition for the 2024 football season, but things did not work out that way. Grubb thought it was best that he become the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, have an opportunity to coach in the NFL, which is what a lot of coaches desire to do one day. And he also had an opportunity to stay in Washington after being on the Washington Huskies coaching staff for a couple of seasons, so his family doesn't have to move all the way across the country to coach college football. He can stay in Washington and coach in the NFL. So you could definitely understand it from that perspective, and with him having that opportunity. Unfortunately for Grubb, he was fired by the Seattle Seahawks, and now he's headed back to Tuscaloosa to be the Crimson Tide's offensive coordinator officially for this 2025 football season. And a lot of Alabama fans are excited. They're pumped up to have Ryan Grubb back to Tuscaloosa, and you kind of understand why. I think the most obvious reason why is the production that Ryan Grubb has had at the collegiate football level when it comes to having basically an explosive offense. Just take a look at the last two offenses that he had in Washington under Kalen DeBoer. During those two seasons, he had two 1,000-yard wide receivers. Of course, he had Michael Penix at quarterback, which is definitely a huge help. And during that last season at Washington, when they made it all the way to the national championship and lost to the Michigan Wolverines, they had two 1,000-yard receivers, one of the top wide receivers to go in that NFL draft after that season, and Rome Duzier going to the Chicago Bears. He also had Dijon Johnson in the backfield who rushed for more than 1,000 yards. So not only was it an explosive offense in Washington, it was a balanced offense for the last two seasons. There was another running back during that 2022 football season who almost rushed for 1,000 yards as well. So he has proven production when it comes to the college football level, and not even just staying in college. You can go to that last season with the Seattle Seahawks. When it comes to the box score and when it comes to the stat sheet, it wasn't a terrible year for that quarterback and those wide receivers. When you take a look at Geno Smith and also DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba, he had 1,000 yards. And when you take a look at DK Metcalf, he was right on the cusp of 1,000 yards with 992. So basically the last three seasons of Ryan Grubb being an offensive coordinator, whether it is in the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks and whether it is at Washington under Kalen DeBoer, he's had really 2,000-yard receivers in all of those years. And like I said, that attack has been pretty balanced as well. And that trend actually goes back to Fresno State as well. When you take a look at Ryan Grubb, he had receivers at Fresno State who were right on the cusp of 1,000 yards and having a balanced attack. One year he had two 700-yard rushers to go along with those receivers. So when you take a look at Grubb, I think that is why most Alabama fans are excited, because he has proven production at the collegiate football level as an offensive coordinator, as a play caller. And I think this is something that is opposite of Nick Sheridan. I think that is something that Alabama fans are pointing out as well, to go along, to basically be a contrast to the experience that Ryan Grubb is bringing to the table. Nick Sheridan did not have that same level of experience heading into the 2024 football season. Sheridan was only an offensive coordinator one time before he took over the offensive coordinator job for the Crimson Tide for the 2024 football season, when Ryan Grubb was set to go to be the offensive coordinator at the Seattle Seahawks. And do you guys know what that record was for the Indiana Hoosiers when Nick Sheridan was their offensive coordinator? The Hoosiers went 2-10 that season. They had their two leading receivers had about 500 yards, and their leading receiver wasn't a receiver. It was a tight end, and it's kind of now that I actually looked at that, it kind of makes a lot of sense when you take a look at the way that the Crimson Tide's offense looked during the 2024 football season. In my opinion, I felt that it was too many two tight end sets. I don't think the Crimson Tide had the talent that they needed at tight end. Those guys that you need at tight end, if you're going to continue to run two tight ends, I think we need guys who are able to create separation. And I don't think that is the strength of a Josh Cuevas, of a CJ Dupree. They're big physical tight ends who are able to block. They can go out and make plays in terms of the receiving game, but they probably are at their best in those one-on-one competitive catches, those jump balls, those 50-50 type of balls, and they're able to make some tough catches because they're bigger than the cornerbacks, and they're going to be probably a little bit faster than some linebackers, but may not be so in this new age and the way the linebackers are able to play right now. When we just take a look at that, I think that contributed to some of Jalen Miro's struggles, not all of them, because there were some struggles that lean on Jalen Miro and his ability as he continues to try to get better. But I do feel with those two tight end sets, I feel like that caused some trouble when it came to Jalen Miro. And I think a lot of times when we saw him force feeding the ball to wide receivers, I think he went to the weapons who were able to create separation, at least in his mind. And those guys were typically a Jeremy Bernard and a Ryan Williams. A lot of times it was Ryan Williams with the amount of targets that he got as the season progressed. But Nick Sheridan did not have a lot of play calling experience before he became the Crimson Tide's offensive coordinator in 2024. And when you talk about Grubb now coming to Tuscaloosa, that is the complete opposite. Now you're bringing in an experienced play caller who's had success at the highest level when it comes to college football, because he was the coordinator when the Huskies made it to the national championship game. And now he's connecting with the coach he's had the most success with as well, with Kalen DeBoer. And DeBoer, like I've said in previous videos, he's spoken highly of Grubb, not only as an offensive mind, but as a guy who he considers a friend, a guy he respects a lot. And it just made a lot of sense in my mind for Grubb to get back to Tuscaloosa. I think this made the most sense. It almost made too much sense for him to get back to Tuscaloosa to become the Crimson Tide's offensive coordinator for this 2025 football season. And there's so many ways to look at Grubb coming back. I think one of the things that a lot of Alabama fans are going to immediately point towards is that quarterback competition in Tuscaloosa between Ty Simpson, Keelan Russell, and also Austin Mack. When you take a look at that quarterback room, I think when you bring Grubb on, I think the guy who kind of probably comes to your mind first is Austin Mack, because he is a guy who grew up recruited out of high school in California. He's a guy who skipped his senior season and basically went to Washington when he was supposed to be playing his senior season of high school football. And that at Grubb's introductory press conference to become the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, he spoke about Matt and spoke about how he told his parents that, I may not be around for your entire college football career because of just how coaches change schools and go to different programs to make different stops along their coaching career. So he has a personal connection with not only Matt, but with his parents. And Matt also played under Grubb for a season. So I'm pretty sure he's familiar with some of the terminology when it comes to the way that Grubb will talk to his quarterback. So that's probably the biggest immediate impact when it comes to that quarterback battle, at least in my opinion. Austin Mack probably has some sort of an advantage, you can say, in terms of just playing under Grubb for a year, but it's still an open competition. Like I've said in previous videos, it's an open competition because of what Kalen DeBoer said recently. There is not a lot of snaps, college football snaps, between those three guys, which is why this quarterback battle right now can swing in any different directions. And I see so many fans talking about so many guys that they like better, whether it's Russell, whether it's Mack, or whether it is Simpson. So this quarterback battle is going to continue to be the topic of discussion. But in my opinion, when it comes to the impact that Grubb will make on it, at least from this point very early on, the biggest takeaway probably will be that Mack is a guy who does have experience, at least playing under Grubb as his offensive coordinator, although he was not the starting quarterback. Of course, Michael Penix was the Washington Huskies starting quarterback during that particular season. But in my opinion, I think this is a great hire for the Crimson Tide, just based on the production and the way that Ryan Grubb has had success as an offensive coordinator, specifically at the college football level. All signs point to the Crimson Tide being able to have the ability to have an explosive offense that is able to get so many people involved, because he's had those 1,000-yard receivers. He had a 1,000-yard running back along with those guys, and the guys who did not reach 1,000 yards, they were not far off. I mean, Jeremy Bernard under Ryan Grubb, he had like 400 receiving yards behind those two 1,000-yard receivers. I think it was a 600-yard receiver during that 2023 football season for the Huskies as well. So there's a lot to be excited about in Tuscaloosa when it comes to just the many changes, the early enrollees, the new blood, the Crimson Tide are getting in when it comes to the transfer portal. So it's going to be a lot of new faces in Tuscaloosa. Not as much changes as well as when Kalen DeBoer took over for Nick Saban, but I think the change is really good. The changes that have been made, the transfers that have come in, I think they'll put the Crimson Tide in a great position to have success during the 2025 football season. But that is what I wanted to talk about in this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Before you leave, hit that like button for me, hit that subscribe button as well, subscribers, hit the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. As always, I am Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown Alabama.